How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I have a very interesting video to show you, which we'll get to in a moment. It was an exchange on CNN between Paris Dennard, who used to work for the George W. Bush administration, and now he is a political commentator. You may have seen him a lot on CNN, and his opponent in this case was Phil Mudd. He used to be a counterterrorism official in the CIA. I think he was the ex-deputy director of the CIA counterterrorism branch, whatever that's called exactly. They're having an exchange of words about the whole security clearance kerfuffle, and things really got out of hand. So I don't want to talk too much more right now. What I'm going to do right now is go ahead and show you the video, which is fantastic. It's crazy. After we get done with the video, we'll come on back and discuss that video and talk a little bit more about Phil Mudd and his history and what would be the reaction if some of the political affiliations in this particular case were switched around. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
A lot of these people that have these security clearances, and this is the secret in the swampy Washington, D.C., they have them and they keep them because it's profitable for them after they leave government. Because if you have a security clearance, especially high-level security clearances, your contracts and your consulting gigs pay you a lot more money because of the access that you have. I hope the president continues to do this, and I hope he adds Omarosa to the list, because if she has a clearance, she too, because of her actions, should have it revoked.
Well, I don't know if I'd put Omarosa in the same category of the 75 people who signed those letters, but Phil Mudd, I imagine you want to react.
Profitable, Paris. When I am requested to sit on an advisory board, let me ask you one question. How much do you think I'm paid to do that at the request of the U.S. government? Give me one answer, and you got 10 seconds. How much?
I'll ask you a question. How much are you paid for your
Answer the
consulting and
question.
contracting gigs? For being a
I have no
former
contracts
official?
with the U.S. government that pay money.
I'm not talking.
Zero.
And this is the thing.
When
I'm not talking
I'm
about what the
asked to
federal
offer
government,
advice to the
Phil.
U.S. government,
Phil,
I
let's
get
be
paid
honest.
zero.
Phil, let's be
That's
honest.
it.
I'm not talking about your role with the federal government. I'm talking about the
who are you
contracts
talking
and
about?
gigs that
You
you
talking
get
about
from
General
being a
Hayden?
consultant and a contractor. The consulting firms that they form and that you all get is because you get more money when having a consultant for having the security clearance.
That
Stop
is
acting like
incorrect.
that doesn't happen.
I have
That's the
zero
truth.
consulting relationships with the U.S. government. Zero.
I'm not talking, Phil, that's a good talking point. I'm not talking about relationship with the government. I'm talking about in the private sector. When you have a security
I
clearance
have
and you
zero
keep it.
relationships with the private sector that involve my security clearance. Zero. I get $0 from consulting companies that deal with the U.S. government. Are we clear?
Well, I will be clear in saying that everybody in Washington, D.C. knows if you don't want to be honest about it, that's on you. But if you have a security clearance and you keep it, you get more money to have it.
We're done. Get out.
Phil,
It's not your show, so I'm
25 years
staying
in the
right here.
service, and this is
Don't
the
be
shit
so
I get.
defensive about
Get
this.
out.
Don't be so defensive about this.
Folks-
Your voice is still here. You can still do whatever you
Folks,
want.
let's
But
take
the
a beat.
politicalization of the intelligence community under this administration, with the people coming on here every day, tweeting and talking about this administration, you all have made it about politics, not the president.
Let's take a beat here for a second. And Phil,
Okay, so you saw that. You see what's going on. Now, that was crazy. I mean, my man was triggered. He was triggered to the point of no return. He's screaming, microphone is just peaking crazy. I mean, this guy was totally unhinged. This is part of the Trump derangement syndrome. Before we even get into the ins and outs of what was said here about the security clearance, how much money you make, what you saw from Philip Mudd was Trump derangement syndrome 100% of the way. This is really a real thing. I'm not sure if I've done a video on this or not. You know, I do so many videos, I can't really remember, but I know I've spoken about it before. If not on my live show, definitely on my social media. A lot of therapists are coming out and saying that they're seeing a rise in patients that are coming to them complaining about Trump and having some of the same symptoms. Excessive social media use, anxiety, can't sleep, all related to the Trump administration being here, all related to Trump being in the White House. This is Trump derangement syndrome right in front of your face. You're seeing exactly what's going on as a result of that. And the reason why I know in this case, this guy is experiencing some problems because of the Trump administration. He has been on CNN before talking about Trump in a negative way. He was the guy that got on CNN talking about assholes. He said the exact same word over and over again. And he also dropped the N-word twice.
British polars built this country 110 years ago. They were called slopers and slant eyes. A white honky from Norway can come here, but a black dude from Haiti can't. What does that tell you in an America that in one generation called you a nigger?
Say it 2 times.
We're no different than we were a generation ago, and we're learning the same lessons that we learned when we called a Chinese man a slant eye, when we called a man from Guatemala a spick and a wetback, and we called a black man a nigger.
This guy is unhinged. And we all know, as sure as the day is long, that if this guy were a white conservative screaming at a black person, like, just switch it around. Let's say it was a white conservative who was in the CIA screaming at a black liberal commentator on CNN. Do you know what the backlash from that would be? You see what happened when Trump just questioned LeBron James' intelligence. Same thing with Maxine Waters. Oh, he's a Nazi, he's a racist, all this, that, and the third. Imagine if it was a white conservative screaming, literally, not just talking loud. We all heard this guy scream, microphone glitch and everything else. Imagine if he was screaming at a black liberal on television. Nobody would say that it's not really a big deal, he deserved it. Nah, it'd be total outrage. And then you drop in the N-word twice, the context would be irrelevant. They will just focus on him using the word, and that's it. John Schneider got removed from his own company for using the N-word on a conference call in a context that was similar to what Philip Mudd was using it on television. But Philip Mudd still has his job. There's been no actual call for him to get fired or for him to be forced to resign. But John Schneider got taken away from his own company because of that. Generally, these guys who are on the left can do whatever they want. They could use racial slurs. They could scream at you, holler at you. There's no real action taken. But the moment you align yourself a little bit with the right, just a little bit, any kind of racially insensitive thing that may be said from you, even if in a proper context, gets taken totally out of proportion, and then you're smeared as some kind of demon or a Nazi. That's how that goes. But let's get to the actual subject matter that was discussed before all the screaming and hollering happened, which was a security clearance. Do you make more money having a security clearance? Obviously you do. It is an asset. That's why they fight so hard to keep it. It's very simple. Philip Mudd was trying to say, well, I don't get paid specifically from the federal government due to my security clearance, but you understand how he was trying to be very specific with his wording. Why not just say, I don't get any money, I don't get any special treatment, I don't get any kind of bonus from my security clearance? Why be so specific? That's the way lawyers talk. That's the way people who don't want you to understand the truth talk. He's trying to obfuscate the truth, all right? He knows that a regular normie, a citizen out here in the street, if they have a security clearance, that's going to definitely put them in places that they would not be able to be in if they did not have it. It gives them legitimacy. It gives them advantages out here in the world that the average person does not have, which will equate to more money. It's very simple. I have family that are not in the military at all, former military, to have a security clearance that helps them in their job, whether it's civil engineering, whatever the case may be. Having that is much better than not having that. And everybody knows that. This guy, Philip Mudd, is just so triggered at what Trump is doing by revoking the security clearances. I'm not sure if he had one or not. Hopefully he does not. And hopefully Trump revokes it, because this guy obviously is lying about it. He can't handle it. He can't handle himself. Trump derangement syndrome is real. I hope they find the cure, because this guy, Philip Mudd, has it really bad. And before I close, I just want to give a shout out to Paris Dennard. Hey, man, you do a great job on CNN. You are a brave man to go on there all the time and slay these demons that they put in front of your face. Paris Dennard is so brave with it. He went on CNN and called them fake news on CNN.
I think this is fake news. This is not a news story.
So I can really appreciate that. Shout out to him for doing what he does. And this guy, Phil Mudd, the way he is, the way he acts, this is the kind of thing I see in a lot of liberals that claim to be so progressive, that claim to be so inclusive. When they disagree with you, all of a sudden, that goes out the window. right? They want to sit there and call you an N-word the same way he did when he was on CNN. He did it kind of in a sneaky way. Oh, it's in context. I bet you any kind of money that he would have loved to have said that to Paris Dennard on CNN out of anger, because he was about to bust every blood vessel in his head. It was a mess, but I enjoyed seeing that meltdown from Phil Mudd live on television. I don't know if that was a panic attack. I don't know if he was just triggered. Whatever it was, it really brought some joy to my spirit, like a honeysuckle on the warm summer day, a tall glass of lemonade with your grandma's best Sunday dinner. That's how it felt to me. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this as the midterms roll around, because it's going to be a lot of disappointment. People are not going to get the outcome they desire. It's going to be great. The same way it was in 2016, the liberal tears were abundant and flowing. I expect to see much more of that coming up here soon, but that's pretty much all I got. So what do you think? Do you think that Phil Mudd was justified in his indignation? If you think that way, please explain to me why. What justifies a man being so upset, being so triggered, being so butthurt that you're going to scream at somebody talking about get out? Get out? What do you mean get out? It was funny when Paris Dennard was like, it's not your show. Because it was not his show. And even if it was his show, why would you do that? Just because you disagree with somebody, you're going to scream at him and tell him to get out? And that is part of the reason, again, why I know this is the Trump derangement syndrome. You're trying to kick somebody out of a place that you can't even do. It's like if you are a patron in a restaurant and then you have a discussion with somebody and you tell them to get out. It's like, wait a minute, you can't tell me to get out. You are a customer the same way I'm a customer. We're both guests. You can't tell me to leave the place where we're both guests at. You don't have a superiority over me. We're both on the same playing field. We're both men. We're both guests. Don't tell me to get out. But hey, that goes back to the Trump derangement syndrome. That's just what that is. But do you think that I'm wrong? Did Phil Mudd have a point about the security clearance not really giving you any kind of benefit? It's just there just to have. And if that's the case, then what's the big deal about continuing to keep it after you're not in government anymore? Why do you need it? For what? What are you going to do with it? Why is it a big deal? It should be as simple as, once you get fired from a job, if you have keys to the actual building, hand the keys over and go about your business. That should be how that is, rather than trying to hold on to it to do what? What are you going to do with the keys after you don't live there anymore? All right. What Paris Dennard said about it being an asset that can make you more money and get you in the doors that would not be open to you if you are a normie civilian is correct. Everybody knows that, which is why people like Phil Mudd and John Brennan get so triggered when Trump takes that privilege away. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. That's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.
We're done. Get out.